The topic is radioactivity and radioisotopes used in medicine. So we have divided this topic into these parts. Introduction and history. We will discuss about nuclear structure, binding energy, natural radioactivity, artificial radioactivity, production of radioisotopes and their applications. Now, coming to the history part, actually radioactivity was not invented by human. It is the natural nuclear phenomena which is caused by the unstable nuclei, and it was discovered by Henry Becquerel in 1896. So, because W. Rontgen discovered X-rays in 1895 and Henry Becquerel was trying to find out whether the X-rays are same as the light rays emitted by a uranium. So before starting the experiment, just he has done the setup, he found that photographic film had been exposed without the exposure of the light rays. So what can be the reason for behind this? So he found that there are something invisible radiation rays which might have affected this photographic plate. So he concluded that uranium emits some invisible radiation spontaneously, and these were different from the X-rays. This phenomena he named as radioactivity, and his work was further followed by Pierre and Marie Curie, who have isolated polonium and radium element from the uranium core in 1898. Now, as we know, the radioactivity is a nuclear phenomena of the unstable nuclei, and this instability can be due to so many factors. Inside the nucleus, instability can be due to unbalance of the different forces. It can be due to binding energy, or it can be due to neutron-proton ratio inside the nucleus. So, before understanding the radioactivity, we have to understand what is going on inside the nucleus. So, let us start with this. First, inside a nucleus, there are proton neutrons. Everybody knows they collectively known as nucleons, and proton plus neutron together makes the mass number. Atomic number is the number of protons. Now, the characteristics of an atom also depend upon this atomic number. It means in a reaction, if we change the number of proton of the nucleus, then entire element will change to another element. If we want to find the size of a nucleus, that directly depend upon the atomic mass. R equals to R naught a to the power 1 by 3, and we find that the size of the nucleus is about 10 to the power minus 12 centimeter, and nucleus is made up of proton and neutron. The size is 10 to the power minus 13 centimeter, and further protons and neutrons can be divided into quarks which have the size of 10 to the power minus 16 centimeter. Now, because inside the nucleus there are protons, and protons have the positive charge, so they will repel each other due to Coulombic force between them. So the question arises how they reside inside the nucleus. So actually the answer is the nuclear force. Nuclear force are of two types, weak force and strong force. As we know, the strong nuclear forces are the strongest force of the universe. So they are the attractive force and overcome the electrostatic repulsion between the protons also. So that's why the nucleus is stable. Now, these nuclear force, from where these nuclear force are coming, this is the question. So it was explained by Yukawa theory of meson field. Actually, inside the nucleus, what is happening? Protons and neutrons exchange some mass in between them. Neutron is converting to proton by emitting a pi plus meson. A neutron converting to proton by emitting a pi minus meson. So like this, exchange of some mass means this mass is around 270 times of the mass of electron. So there is exchange of mass in between the neutron proton continuously. It means mass is moving, means it is creating the momentum, and we know that rate of change of momentum is nothing but the force. So that's why this force has been explained by Yukawa theory. Now, next factor of the unstability of the nucleus is the binding energy. So what is binding energy? Actually, it can be defined by the energy released during the formation of a nucleus, or in other way also we can say that if it is the energy required to break a nucleus into its constituent particles. If we give the energy to the nucleus, if we give some energy to the nucleus and it breaks into its constituent particles, then it is a binding energy. Now, this binding energy inside the nucleus again depend upon 5 terms, and these terms are volume energy term, means if volume of the nucleus is high, then binding energy will be high. It depend upon surface energy term in a negative manner, means if surface of the nucleus is more, the binding energy will be less. Asymmetric term. This asymmetric term actually arises inside the nucleus due to due to unequal number of neutrons and protons, and it also reduces the binding energy. Now, next is the Coulomb energy term. As we know, proton repel each other. So, there will be Coulombic repulsion between the protons, and it will definitely reduce the binding energy. Fifth term is the pairing energy term, on which binding energy depend upon their even or odd number of nucleons. So, according to liquid drop model, Weizsäcker have given a formula that binding energy will be equal to by this equation. So here clearly we can see that first term is the volume energy term, which is adding something to the binding energy. Rest these 3 terms, they are decreasing something to the binding energy, and the last term actually it depend upon the number of A and Z. If A and Z is even, it will be additive. If A and Z are odd, it will be negative. If A is odd, then it will be 0. So like this, binding energy depend. So if we add all these terms and we plot a curve between binding energy per nucleon and atomic mass of different nuclides, so we get a beautiful curve, and according to this curve we can see on the y-axis binding energy per nucleon, on x-axis we draw mass number of different radionuclide, and we see that the Fe56 is a stable nuclei, and we can say it is the most stable nucleus. Okay, and its binding energy is highest, and it is around 8.8 MeV. So all other nucleides in the nature, they also try to become stable. So that's why the nuclide which are right side to this Fe56, they undergo fission process to get the stability, and the nucleides which are left side to this Fe56, they try to, because they are of less atomic mass, so they try to undergo fusion to achieve the stability. So like this, we can say more is the binding energy, more will be the stability. Now, the next factor behind this stability of the nucleus is the neutron to proton ratio. Here in this picture, we can see this black line is the n equals to z line, but actual stability line is the blue line, which is deviated from n equals to z line. Means in the stable nuclei above atomic mass, atomic number of 20, the number of neutrons will be more than the number of protons in a nuclei, and that are stable only. So the nuclei which reside on this blue line, they are stable, and it is clearly visible that many nuclides are positioned above this blue line. It means their number of neutrons are more, so they decay by the beta minus and get stability. And some nuclides which are below this blue line, they try to emit beta positive and they get stability. Now let us see the definition of radioactivity. Now we have seen, because nuclear force is the strongest force in the universe, despite the strength of that nuclear force, it is found that many nuclides are unstable and they spontaneously emit some particles alpha, beta, gamma and change into daughter nuclei. In another way, we can say radioactivity is a phenomena in which radiation is given off by some nuclides in order to get stability. And the emitted radiation can be in the form of particles or EM waves. And the material which show this phenomena is called radioactive material. Now, we have to see some properties of radioactive material. First one is the activity. So what is activity? Actually, activity is the strength of a radioactive material. And this strength is in terms of the rate at which nuclei of sample undergo a spontaneous decay. So, if there are n number of nuclei present in a sample at a certain time, then its activity will be R equal to minus dN by dt. It is rate of change of nuclide with respect to time. Now, next property is the decay constant. Now, probability per unit time for the decay of each nucleus is known as decay constant. In terms of decay constant, activity can be defined as R equals to lambda n. So simply, if we know the decay constant of a radionuclide and there are n number of nuclei present in a sample, then its activity can be calculated by simply multiplying them. So after t time, if someone asks you what will be the radioactivity present in the sample, so that will be R equals to R naught e to the power minus lambda t. Okay, next property of a radionuclide is the half-life. The half-life of a radionuclide, actually, it is the time period in which the initial sample will decay to its half value. It means half of the sample only remaining. If n is the number of half-lives passed, then the number of undecayed radionuclide can be found out by the direct formula n equals to n0 half to the power n, where n0 is the initial number of radionuclide present in the sample and small n is the number of half-lives, which can be found out by total time spent divided by half-life of the radionuclide. And from this picture, we can see that activity, which was initially 1000, so it has been reduced to 500 after one half-life cycle. After two half-life cycle, it has become around 250. After three half-life time, means 1 by 8 times means it has become 1250 and so on. And this curve is a exponential decay. So radioactivity follow the exponential decay. Now, if we see the relation between half-life and decay constant, so half-life can be correlated with decay constant as T half equals to 0.693 divided by lambda. Now, next is the average or mean life of a radionuclide. If you want to find the average life, actually it is the sum of ages of all the radionuclide in the sample divided by total number of radionuclide in the sample. But it can be calculated by a simple formula, E average equals to 1.44 E half, or just simple 1 divided by decay constant. Now, next is the successive radioactive decay. In some process, we find that if initial radioactive material A decays to the daughter nuclei B, and we observe that this daughter nuclei B is again radioactive, so it again undergo the decay process and it is converted to C. So there is a chain of decay from A to B and B to C. So such type of radioactive decay comes under successive radioactive decay, and we can understand it by if at time t equal to 0 the number of radionuclide in A are N0. At that time B is 0, C is 0. After time spent of t, it will become N1, B will become N2, C will become N3. So their decay process can be understood here. So initially this line is the N0 number of radionuclides. So N1 continuously decay exponentially, whereas N2 first it will increase, and after getting a peak value it will start reducing. N3 it is continuously increasing. Like this, the whole radioactive material will be converted to C. Like this, successive decay can be understood. Now, coming to the units of measurement of radioactivity, first is the small unit, that is the becquerel. So, 1 becquerel is 1 spontaneous decay per second. So, it is a very small unit. So, we can convert it accordingly to some bigger units: kilobecquerel, megabecquerel, gigabecquerel, and terabecquerel. Next unit we discussed, that is the Curie. Curie is the bigger unit of radioactivity, and earlier it was defined as the activity of 1 gram of radium, and this Curie comes out to be 3.7 into 10 to the power 10 becquerel, or 37 gigabecquerel we can say. Next is the Roentgen. So it is the measurement of energy produced by gamma or X-ray per centimeter cube of air. Next unit is the Roentgen equivalent man. It is the measurement that correlates the dose of any radiation to its biological effect. Next unit is the Gray. So as we know, the unit of energy is the joule. So in terms of joule, it is given as the absorbed dose by an organism, and 1 Gray is equal to 1 joule per kg of the irradiated matter, and 1 Gray is equal to 100 rads. Now it has replaced the older unit rad. Now coming to the sievert. Actually sievert is the effective dose measurement, and it is nothing but 1 Gray multiplied by radiation weighting factor multiplied by tissue weighting factor. So let us discuss about radiation weighting factor. What is tissue weighting factor? So Actually, when we talk about radiation wetting factor, because different radiation have their different way of depositing the energy into the tissue. So due to that, their LET coefficient, linear energy transfer coefficients, are different, and that's why their biological effects produced are different. So they will have different radiation wetting factors. If we see the examples, the photons, whether it is X-rays or gamma rays, all the photons, electrons and muons, they have the radiation wetting factor 1, that is minimum. Now, if we see the protons and another charged particles, they have the radiation wetting factor 2. Alpha particles and other fission fragments and heavy ions, they have 20. But if we see the neutrons of different energy, they have a plenty of different radiation wetting factor, and it means it is a continuous function of neutron energy, which can be seen by this picture. And this dot 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 curve is the recommended one, means the value of radiation wetting factor at different energies of radiation, it is varying from 2.5 to 20, and at the higher energy it again decreases. The reason behind that, we can see in the graph that at the higher energy it is reducing, reaching towards 2.5. So the reason behind that is because in this area the radiation actually is overkilling the tissues. So that's why it has come down. Now, if we talk about the tissue wetting factor, actually we see the radiation is more effectively killing the cells when cells are in mitosis phase. Means cell division is there, cell differentiation is there. It means if the cell differentiation of a organ is high for a particular organ, so that organ will be more sensitive to the radiation, and its tissue wetting factor also will be more. So we can see the examples: lung, stomach, colon, they have tissue wetting factor 0.12. So it is more sensitive to the radiation. Gonads, they have 0.08. Bone surface, skin, brain, salivary glands, they have 0.01. Means their sensitivity towards radiation is less. And this tissue wetting factor contributes to the total effective dose. Now let us see what are the types of radioactive decay. So these types we understood that are the alpha decay, beta decay. Of course, it is two types: beta negative and beta positive, electron capture, and gamma decay. So in the alpha decay, what happens when an alpha particle is emitted from the parent nuclei? Its atomic number is reduced by 2 and atomic mass is reduced by 4. We can see 92 uranium 238 is reducing to thorium 234, and one alpha particle is emitted. And the reason behind the alpha decay is nothing but the nuclear size is too large. So it emits the alpha particles and become smaller so that stability can be achieved. Next is the beta minus decay. Actually, it is the emission of electron only. Yes, sir. Time. So by the emission of electron, the parent nuclei will increase its atomic number by 1 unit and atomic mass will be same. We can see the decay of cobalt 60. It will emit beta negative and converted to nickel 28. Now the reason behind this is the neutron to proton ratio. It means there is the surplus of neutrons. Then a neutron will emit the electron and will convert it to proton, so that neutron proton ratio is balanced. Next is the beta positive decay, means there is the emission of positrons. It means if a parent nuclei emits a proton, so it will reduce atomic number by 1 unit, and positron is emitted. And to balance this equation, one neutrino is the particle, positron is the antiparticle, so one neutrino is also emitted there. Now, what is the reason behind that? Again, it is the neutron proton ratio. It is too low. It means it is a proton rich element. So next is the electron capture. So this electron capture, the region is the same as the positron emission. It means this process of electron capture competes with the positron emission, and of course has the same effect. Now in the electron capture, what happens? One proton, because number of proton is too high, so one proton capture one nearby K or L cell electron and converted to neutron. So according to this electron capture, it will give the same effect as it was the beta positive emission. Now gamma decay. So gamma decay, when it rises, because we have seen in so many, we have observed in so many reactions of alpha and beta decay, some daughter nuclei are still left in the excited state of energy. So that surplus energy is emitted in the form of gamma rays. When we see the decay process of cobalt 60, actually it emits two beta particles of energy 0.31 MeV and 1.48 MeV. But still this nickel 60 is in the excited state of energy, so it comes to the ground state of energy by emitting two gamma particles of energy 1.17 and 1.33. Then it becomes stable. Now coming to the artificial radioactivity, yes, we can say that it is the induced radioactivity or it is the man-made radioactivity. And how it can be achieved? It can be achieved by bombardment of some particles on an stable element. And if we see these particles behavior, the reaction cross section is different for different particles. What we observe, the slow neutrons are the most efficient particles for the induction of artificial radioactivity. So why not charged particle? Because charged particles are scattered while approaching the positive nucleus due to the Coulombic force between the positive nucleus and the charged particle. So such charged particles have less reaction cross section and they need some extra energy for the nuclear reaction, and of course that can be achieved as on today by the help of cyclotrons. If we see one example, alpha particles are bombarded on an aluminum plate. So what happens, even after removal of the alpha particle source, we find there is an emission of radiation with the half-life of 3 minutes. It means it has the this aluminum nucleus has been converted to another element, and that is phosphorus, and that phosphorus is a proton rich, so it is a positron emitter. As on today, if we talk, there are around 1300 radioisotopes discovered. 1300 isotopes have been produced artificially and they are used in industry, medical and research work. Now, these are few well-known examples of radioisotopes what we are using. Cobalt 60, half-life 5.26 years, used in cancer treatment, teletherapy and brachytherapy both. for food irradiation, industrial radiography, sterilizing the surgical instrument. Is so many use of cobalt 60 we are seeing. Cesium 137, its half-life is 30 years to treat the cancer tumor. Radium 226, its half-life is 1600 years. So earlier it was used, but nowadays it has been discontinued because of its daughter product radon, which is alpha emitter. Now, and this is it gives the unwanted dose. So iridium 192, its half-life is 74 days, widely used for HDR brachytherapy. Gold 198, it is used for permanent implant. Palladium 103, it is the replacement of iodine 125 for permanent implant. Technetium 99M, half-life is 6.02 hours. It is used for nuclear imaging. Gallium 67, used for Hodgkin disease diagnosis. Iodine 137, used for diagnostic studies of thyroid. Iodine 131 for thyroid cancer. Iodine 135 for RIA, used in RIA kit. Radioimmunoassay purpose for finding out the T3, T4, TSH. Now, let us see how these radionuclides or radioisotopes are produced. So, there are many methods. One is the nuclear reactor, by accelerators, by nuclear fission, or directly from the generators. If we see production in the nuclear reaction, in a nuclear reactor, at the sample of stable nuclei, we bombard the thermal neutrons so that it becomes radioactive. If we see the example for the production of cobalt 60, a sample of cobalt 59 is irradiated for 7 years with a very high flux of neutron, 2 to the power 2 into 10 to the power 14 neutron per centimeter square per second, and we achieve a high activity cobalt 60 source of around 12,000 curie. For the production of iodine 131, we use beryllium sample, beryllium 130, and we put it into a nuclear reactor and irradiate it for 3 weeks with a flux of 2 into 10 to the power 4 neutron per centimeter square per second. Next, we can achieve this by the accelerator. Accelerator means high energy charge particles are being used inside the accelerator to get the radioactive activity. And the radionuclides so produced have lesser half-life. These are used especially for medical imaging purpose. We can see the radionuclides produced by accelerator are proton rich and they decay by positron emission, and when they goes inside the body, they are administered into the body, so they again do the pair annihilation reaction, due to which they give two gamma photons at 180 degree opposite to each other, that comes out and that is used for imaging purpose. So radionuclides are carbon 11 with half-life of 20 minutes, nitrogen 13, half-life of 10 minutes, and oxygen 15, half-life of 2 minutes, chlorine 18, half-life of 110 minutes. So if we see one example, F18 production, so actually it is produced by bombarding the A218 with the high energy protons. So proton will go inside the nucleus and change its atomic number. So it has become 9, and that's why the element has been changed to fluorine, and 1 neutron is emitted in this reaction. And from where this AO18 is coming, actually normal water contains 2% of such water, which is made up by H and O18. So that is separated from that water and that is being used here. Now, coming to nuclear fission. So by nuclear fission of uranium 235 plutonium-239. We get a large number of radionuclei ranging from 95 to 135, and fission products we get are molybdenum 99 and iodine 131. The benefit is that they are of very high specific activity, and separation of radionuclides, of course, is a difficult process. Now, directly we can use the radionuclide generators. As we see, the short-lived daughter radioisotopes is separated from the parent by some standard methods by using these generators. One example is the molybdenum technetium generator. This is the cross section in the radiopharmaceutical. In the radiopharmaceutical in vivo procedure of diagnosis, we cannot directly use the radioisotope. So what we do, the radioisotopes are labeled with some chemical compound and it makes a radiopharmaceutical. These chemical compounds should have favorable biochemical, physiological and metabolic properties. Then only they can be utilized, and they should be non-toxic in nature. For example, in PET scan, F18 is labeled with the glucose. If we see the applications of radioisotope, they are therapeutic use, they are diagnostic use, in vitro, in vivo procedure, imaging, non-imaging procedure, different radioisotopes are being used. In the therapeutic use, we can see teletherapy, brachytherapy, thyroid cancer, thyrotoxicosis, and polycythemia vera. Now, next is the selection criteria of radioisotope. Selection criteria of teletherapy source. It should be fairly long half-life. It means it will avoid the frequent replacement of the source. Gamma rays should have high energy so that deep-seated tumor can be treated. A specific activity of the source is high, the source size will be less. Our penumbra in the beam profile will be very less. Self-shielding also can be avoided. So if we compare cobalt 60, cesium 137, radium 226, so cobalt 60 is the most benefited or most suitable. Now, selection of brachytherapy source, the range of energy should be 0.2 to 0.4 MeV. It should have optimum half-life, high specific activity to reduce the size of the source, and there should not be any gaseous disintegration. Radium 192 and cobalt 60 are used, but radium 229 is discontinued. Now, selection of isotope in diagnostic purpose, it should be optimum half-life, few hours to few days, and it should be a pure gamma emitter. It should be a pure gamma emitter. Beta dose will give unwanted dose, so that should be avoided. So energy range 50 to 500, but it is ideal 150 kV for gamma emitter, which is technetium 99. Absence of